Hello everyone, this is Dawn. This is going to be a video focused on some of the larger themes related to galactic support for humanity at this time here in July 2026 and extending in, really forever, but in particular the next 3 years, which are a major shift, a tilt for humanity. And there's so much information coming through, so forgive me. I'm going to try to organize it in this video, but literally I probably could sit here and talk for 10 hours with the amount I'm holding in my vessel, body, mind, heart, soul. And it's a bit overwhelming to me, so forgive me if it comes across disjointed. However, that being said, I'm going to organize the information in terms of specific anchor points, but I want to say right here at the outside, if you can, listen to those as you feel called. I'll try to put timestamps, and then the synthesis, though, is going to be important. And not that you need to mentally understand how it all fits together, because I don't at all, but more so that we need to open our hearts to be prepared to receive individually the fullness of the energetic frequency of the message. And again, that is difficult to hold when I am trying to convey or share information. So I'm just kind of trusting the process that somehow that will come through energetically for you. I will also link below because they've been referencing a few videos I've made in the past. So I'm probably going to split this up into several different videos. I already recorded a video that they asked me to make about reconfiguration being a major theme from August of 2026 to August of 2027. So I will share that video separately and link it in the description below. It's more about an overall, the individual process in the next year that supports the collective transformation that's going to be huge. And it's really more than transformation, it's transfiguration. And the processes, it was a 4-phase process that had to do with reconfiguration. And it's a reconfiguration essentially of, how we see ourselves, how we move through the world, how we're being, and then how we free ourselves or extract ourselves from those things that are exposed, that are things that do not support or sustain our lives or our connections to one another moving forward. So there's sort of a 4-phase approach to that reconfiguration. It has to do with the word itself: figuration, configuration, reconfiguration. So I'll link that separately. I will also come back and do more about if I explore this further, I may come back and do more of the subtext in terms of spiritual traditions, including ancient practices, including Gnostic tradition, and including more mainstream monotheistic religion references. I'm going to try to kind of keep that to a minimum in this video, but just know there are links to all of that. And the ancient in particular is something I'm still, trying to sort out. It's like I feel that so strongly lately, and that's definitely part of what the galactic messages are bringing through, definitely. And to me, it feels very connected to Lemuria, which interestingly, I've always had such a deep love for, but it's like it's too precious and too sacred. And so I always kind of focus more on my Atlantis connections, which were volatile but powerful and meaningful. And and so there's a shift happening for me personally too. And so there's a lot more in terms of that whole Lemuria vibe, that's what I'm calling it, that is coming through, that is also very powerful. So I'm also going to save that for another video. But just know that there are so many connections to what I'm about to share. there is the literally logical mathematical foundation and scientific, I guess, but I don't have words for that. I'm not even going to attempt. I will reference a little bit of that in this video, but just know there's like this whole other thing that it's like, to me, it's the Arcturian kind of vibe that I do resonate with, but I do not have the capacity to explain or understand really in a way that I can logically, then share it. There's that, though, underpinning all of this. And that also includes sacred geometry, which I'll touch on a little bit in this video. There's also, as I mentioned, the ancient, mythical beliefs, and then religion and spirituality of all different traditions, including a lot of Gnostic traditions. So that would be things that didn't make it into the Bible. If you look at in terms of Christianity, that would be like the Book of Enoch, for example, or a lot of the Gnostic Gospels. Okay, so there are underpinnings to those, and there are also a lot of connections back to Egypt. I've mentioned that in a couple of videos, and to other ancient civilizations. They feel very like Central America kind of vibe to me, but I don't really know which ones yet, but lots of images. I've got like a whole notebook. So yeah, let me come back and save that for a different video. All right, to get to the point. So the title that I have for this video at the moment is Wheel in a Wheel, Sacred Square, Star Tetrahedron, Transfiguration, Reconfiguration, and Humanity's Event Horizon. I know, it's a lot. So let's just go through this piece by piece. And then, as I said, just open your hearts to receive it in such a way that it can be integrated or synthesized. Because the purpose of this, what it supports, is our own individual reconfiguration, transfiguration in support of the whole that is lifted up of humanity. And this, of humanity's event horizon, those are not my words, those were given to me. That's now, that's July, according to what they shared. And these pieces that I'm sharing, I have actually talked about in way past videos, like going way back to like 2016. The primary ones, though, would have been in 2020, with the beginning of the 7-year passage to a new society and the seeding of the 12 diamond dimensions, which I have a whole other playlist on. And there was a particular video that they've referenced a lot. Not sure exactly, but for sure they're emphasizing that this is now July and August. And it was a video that was a little disjointed that I did called The Seeding of the Sacred Square. So I will touch on that in just a moment. So let's begin with this. We're going to begin with the wheel in a wheel. Now, if you've read the Bible and you're familiar with Ezekiel, a book in the Old Testament, Ezekiel had a vision and saw the wheel in the wheel. You can go look that up. So what I want to share, though, is from, step back from the actual vision. Sorry about that interruption. And what I want to talk about is going back. I want to kind of paint the picture for you. And this is interesting to me also because my whole connection, I would say, to anything otherworldly, well, I did have experiences. All right, apologies. I had to turn my battery was going to die there. I did have experiences as a child, so that's not exactly accurate that this was the first. But as an adult, my first beginning of my connection, I would say, to these like, I guess you would call them, it's not exactly visions, it's more like a download. I hate that word, but like it's like an influx of information where I am being informed, as we all are. And then, for me personally, part of my, service to humanity is to go through my own process and journey based on that, and to share portions that I'm asked to share. And so that actually began in earnest for me with my absolute devotion to my spiritual path, which began in 2012. It started much before that, but it was I was in and out, and also I still was trying to very much divide it. Okay, this is my real life that everybody gets to know about, and then this is what I'm really doing, but nobody can know. So that in 2012, that shifted for me when I shared what I had carried around in my heart since 1999, and I also just sort of decided that I was going to be all in, and that is when, literally, I think it was in the tail end of December, so it probably would have been around Christmas of 2011. Oh yes, it was, because, okay, so November of 2011 was huge for me also. I won't go into the personal story because I've done that elsewhere, but so there was like a huge opening, and very shamanic also, which I think is notable because this will be a separate video. There's been a lot of like original peoples and shamanic vibes and really interesting things that I don't know what to call them. They're not really a council, but these 5 representatives that keep coming to me of the different star beings. And it's not like they're physically coming to me, by the way. It is energetically, but it's like it's like a little mini representatives from this, probably the larger council. I don't really work with the Galactic Council per se or anything like that, but this is like a very specialized kind of thing. And this began for me in a smaller way, or in a different way, in 2012. And I am, very honored that that's the case. But how it started, so I had this huge, kind of all-in commitment. My life changed because I decided this is who I was going to be. Interestingly, was not acknowledged in any way, even though I stated it and was being it ever, like until now. It's 2026, and we'll see. I feel like the tide's going to break soon, but so far, yeah, if you ask anybody else, they would discredit that. But in any case, it started in 2012, and what it started with was not anything beautiful. It literally was in late December, right? I believe it really was. Now I'm thinking about it, I really think it was Christmas night of 2011. I started hearing, I thought I was insane, you guys. I started hearing crazy noises in the sky. We lived north of Atlanta, about an hour north of Atlanta in the suburbs. And I kept hearing it, and it was like this awful, like deep, low, screeching, turning sound, as if somebody was opening some kind of giant, like, vault that had been sealed, and it was like shaking everything, although it wasn't physically shaking, but I could feel, and the rumbling was just, it was like so ominous, but also I knew that it wasn't like the world was going to end right now, but it was a signal. It was very clear, and it happened for like 5 or 6 nights straight. And to the degree that I literally thought I told my husband at the time, I said, and he actually did hear one of them, and he never believed in any of this, trust me. So, but yeah, and I started like Googling, like, you should sort of check my Google searches from that time. I'm sure you'll see, like, I was like, what are the noises in the sky? And turns out that they were heard around the world. So that's how it started for me. And when that happened, so this is 2012, I did have my first, sort of knowing from beyond that this was happening, that humanity was beginning its turn. And it would be a wide turn that would take many years, but it was a definitive turn from which there would be no, we can't pull out of it. The trajectory was set. And so what I saw even then was this wheel in a wheel kind of vision. Now, mine wasn't exactly like in Ezekiel, but it was very similar enough because I was familiar with that story to know, like, oh, there's a connection. And so the wheel and the wheel, I knew in 2012 were in motion. And recently this image has come back strong. They were talking to me a lot about the wheel and the wheel and how that's in the center of this sacred square, which is in the foundation for the star tetrahedron, which is in this like spherical pulsating thing, which all happens because of this event horizon. So it's very like very detailed. Kind of wish I was like a cinematographer, like I could make this on a movie. But so back in 2012, the wheels that I saw were it was becoming alive, and it was expanding and contracting, and it was clear it was going to split into like a ship's wheel on a captain's wheel on a ship. And there were 5 spokes. Now this is interesting because in 2020, and I'll try to share this graphic somewhere, when they gave me the image of the Star of Wonder, which was the grounding of the 7 wonders of the soul in these 7 years, 2020 to 2027, faith, hope, love, healing, growth, passion, beauty. And so we're into passion and beauty at this point. When they showed me that, the image that they gave me in the center was a wheel, and the wheel of wonder was in the center of this, or the wheel, not the wheel in the sky, but there was a wheel in the center of the Star of Wonder. So in 2012, like it was clear that things were in motion. And then in 2020, when all this stuff came through, and that 7 years, the passage to a new society, the seeding of the 7 wonders of the soul within each one of us through the opposite, right? How is faith seeded? Through fear in 2020. How is hope seeded? Through despair in 2021. So there's this play of opposites that have been happening as well. So back in 2012, it was clear there was an opening. And then in 2020, I realized now the wheel is already becoming, 5 wheels in a wheel. And those then are what allow the 12 diamond dimensions to be grounded in our reality. And that is, again, the 7-year period that's happening. There's so much. You can just go watch those videos if you would like on that playlist. So as we're in this 7-year transition, this wheel in the wheel is important, in my way of seeing it, just because of all of those things that have been shown. In the book of Ezekiel, there is, let me just get this, there is the wheel in the wheel. What it was, it allowed the chariot to move instantly in any direction without turning. So that's how the wheel in the wheel worked. And that apparently represents omnipresence, the omnipresence of God. And then there was the wheel that was covered with eyes. And that was to signify that God sees all, omniscience. And then apparently this is from a Google search here, the wheels moved in absolute harmony with the living creatures and were guided by spirit, providing God's providence and control to govern the universe, which is all about divine sovereignty. So that's from a Google search. Now, circling back to 2012, in my journals at the time, and this was very much the galactic infusion of energy, I had written for the first time, I didn't really know the word sovereignty. I mean, I knew sovereign, like kings and queens of, whomever, other countries, but I had never really considered fully the meaning of the word sovereign. And something clicked for me based on the energetic information I was receiving from the galactic realms at that time. And there was a huge shift. I suddenly understood in my own life that I had abandoned myself over and over again. Now, why did I do it? It was because in the beginning, I was in incredibly difficult circumstances. And yet I had held on to this thing within me, but I was afraid to fully own it. So that was my own experience back then. And I'm sharing that because I think that probably that's similar to how many of us feel. And So this idea of individual and soul sovereignty, that's the point at which, for me, I would say my star began to rise. My soul's truth and radiance began to rise. Why? Because I knew I was a sovereign soul, and that became more true for me than this other truth we are handed on a silver platter in terms of conditioning and societal messaging. So this idea of sovereignty, divine sovereignty in the wheel and the wheels, and the omniscience and omnipresence, combined with soul sovereignty, our individual differentiation, but also really embodying the whole of who we are, our return to our whole self and our soul self. That's, kind of what this is all about with the wheel and the wheel. The other connection, and this goes back to 2012 for me too, is at the time I was hearing those noises and feeling like, oh, this is it for humanity, the collective. I definitely knew this was it. And at the time I felt crazy because I didn't know anybody else that was talking about this. There probably were. I wasn't connected to that world at all. I had no one. But I also saw two things. The Star of Bethlehem in the Bible, the one that led the three wise men to visit the baby Jesus, that Star of Bethlehem. But I also did see what I later would learn that people actually call the Star of Bethlehem. This is like a name. I don't know where this comes from, but I saw a huge, beautiful, transparent, rainbow-colored ship, like galactic ship. And it had such a resonance for me. I mean, to be honest, it feels like I've been on it, before. And this is like a very sacred, absolutely stunning. The feeling of it is tranquility and harmony. And it's also not just like a ship up there that kind of like zooms around. It's a vessel that holds so much potent energy that it can change everything and create an umbrella of protection and a rain of harmonic vibration that can literally change realities. So those two stars of Bethlehem are connected for me, and they are connected to this wheel in the wheel vision that for me personally I saw in 2012, and then I have since had many experiences that were very similar to this idea of wheels and wheels. So that's the first image that I wanted to share in terms of, this really is about sharing the images with you and then allowing you and your own experience to put that together as it pertains to our reconfiguration individually and collectively and at every level, and ultimately the transfiguration of humanity and humanity's event horizon. So wheel in the sky, first one. The second symbol that I want to share with you is the star tetrahedron. I've seen this and I've spoken to it, in other videos. So I'm just going to quickly describe what this looks like. I have, this one does go back to when I was a child. I have often seen this vision image of a sky that is sort of like almost folding in on itself, almost like is it a black star? Is that what they call it? Dark star? I can't even remember. Yeah, I'm blanking out on the name. You guys know. Black hole. There you go. A sky folding in on itself, like as if there's like a whirlpool being created in the sky, so the energy gets down into the vortex. And then from that, there is a star tetrahedron shape that descends, and then the star tetrahedron inverts in on itself, like it reverses, and pops up and morphs, and twists and turns as it's doing that. And then as that's happening, there's a flow of light that does descend from it, and it's sort of a golden white flowy kind of energy, but also it radiates out from the points of the star tetrahedron. Maybe just go Google that so you know what it looks like. It's basically a tetrahedron. One tetrahedron is it's a three-dimensional solid, and it has, let me make sure I got this right. It has 4 triangular faces, 6 edges, and 4 vertices. And then the star tetrahedron which is also called a stella octangula, is a 3-dimensional geometric figure formed by 2 interlocking, counter-rotating tetrahedra. And this, the star tetrahedron, consists of 8 vertices and 12 edges perfectly fitting inside a cube. This is important in terms of all of the things I've been shown through the years, and especially how this all fits together that was shown to me recently is that cube connects to a lot of things. And it does connect back to that video I did on the seating of the sacred square, but that was like the foundation, and then it becomes the cube, and that the star tetrahedron fits inside the cube. And by the way, I want to just reference here that this is not like new. It's like there are many other places this kind of thing is talked about in terms of Metatron's cube, I believe it's called, and the blanking out on the word again. Okay, well, there are many other places it's talked about. This is not, I didn't invent this. And also the way that I'm shown it is it relates or pertains as usual, things I share, to the individual and the collective process. So you kind of have to kind of go back and forth between those. And the image of it in and of itself, so each piece of the imagery is important, but it's really about the interlocking of the star tetrahedron, but then also how does that fit inside the cube and the wheel and the wheels inside, and the sphere, I may talk about that in a minute, and the event horizon, which is a line that becomes a circle, and a circle becomes a line, however you look at it, and then there's the unfolding and opening up motion. So really that's I think what I'm trying to say. It's about the sequencing and the emotion and the energy, the energetic transformation that's occurring. So from this star tetrahedron that I've been shown many, many times since I was a child, this was the first vision I think I ever had that I would call an actual vision. And I was very young. I would say it was probably 4 or 5. Yeah, it would have to be before 5. From that star tetrahedron, the 2 tetrahedrons coming together, rotating in the opposite directions, there's an energy formed there, and then all things are birthed from that. From that, all things are made new. From that, the light, that the kind of golden white, tiny particles, light, all of it, by the way, held in a rainbow sphere, begins to happen. And that's the collective transformation. This happens, by the way, over like a long period of time. Minimum of 3 years, but I think it's really a much longer process. But this is the time that we are entering into, where it is occurring. And from that, again, all things are birthed and made new. Even the things that are existing are made new. That's the idea. And there's also, the light is sort of like, it's almost like a pristine snow kind of quality, like very pure, a purity that is falling and emanating in all directions. And it's, as it, flows out, it's purifying and uplifting all things to their highest harmonic, to their, it's not just their original state, it is that, but it's more. It's like a divine transformation, transfiguration. So that's the star tetrahedron. The third symbol here is the sacred square. I did a video that I'll link below on this in 2020. But basically, if you think about, so I'm going to reference here just really quickly, in the Bible, there was Solomon's temple. I don't know a lot about this, but I do know there's a lot of detail, a lot of measurements. Same thing with the New Jerusalem mentioned in Revelation 21. There is the new heaven, the new earth, and there's like a precision in Solomon's temple and the new heaven, new earth. There's a precision to the exact measurements. In Solomon's temple, there are 12 gates. There are 12 foundations. There are 12 angels guarding the 12 gates. it's the city of God. There's like 12,000, what is it called? Stadia? I'm not quite sure, but anyway, and it, it's exact measurements and all of these things. And it's a cubic construction. So the seating of the sacred square that, based on the information that came through to me, happened, at least one level of it happened in 2020. Then the four walls, in the roof and the foundation to form the cube. And the idea of the Solomon's Temple and also the New Jerusalem, the way that I'm shown it, again, not from the text itself, but from the way I'm shown it from this galactic contingency, it's not about those places, like not about the actual Solomon's Temple and the actual New Jerusalem, which actually, might happen, but it's more about we're in a time now where actually those are raised to their highest frequency, but also there is no need for temples because we are the sacred temple. Our bodies, these souls, are the treasure that we hold. And only what is pure can, at this time, moving forward, only what is pure can reside within the sacred temple. So think about that for a second. If we have human beings that are walking around the face of the earth that are rejecting that energy, then they will be hollow. There will be no rest for their souls because there will be no sacred temple. And the exterior is falling away. We can all just see that happening before our eyes. So that's the sacred square. Again, I'll link that other video below if you want to watch it. It does also relate to this idea of the unknowable mystery. If you look at religious traditions, like say, if you look at the Bible in the Hebrew tradition, the name for God, Yahweh, has 4 letters and it's not spoken out loud. And then again, outside religion, there's, plenty of ancient texts that talk about, the unknowable and mystery. And that's a big part of this sacred square and the cubic construction. And there's something about that cubic construction that relates to the like snow type light that I haven't quite, I feel like I need to, just noodle on that a bit more before I say more, but there's something about that, and it happens within each one of us. So now I'm going to shift into 2 things, the event horizon visual, and then what does this mean for us individually and collectively? The event horizon. So the humanity's event horizon, if you think about that line that I described, so the way that I've always felt it, I won't even say seen it, I've felt it, and this has been confirmed by the recent information coming through, is that it's a place where infinity, the eternal, the everlasting, where that, all those fields of that energy come together, they converge, and there's a void, an empty, open field or space there where they converge. Or you could say that from the empty space or the void emerges infinity. Either way, I'm sure one of them is more precise, but there's a meeting, there's a convergence, and we're in this time of convergence right now. If you look at, so let's just back up for a minute and look at what's happening now in terms of humanity's evolution and the evolution of consciousness. I mean, if you look at it, from a religious standpoint, you might say we're in a time of judgment, a reckoning, the sound of the final trumpet call, and the judgment of the nations, all of that. And yet there is an underlying energy that is very clear, and that energy beneath that, what's happening with all of that, the judgment and of individuals and nations and societies and the exposure, beneath all that, there is a pure stream, and the purpose of all of this is for the upliftment of each one of us individually, and a reconnection, thus the reconfiguration, a reconnection to all the parts of us we have pushed away, a reconnection to one another in all the ways we have judged one another or pushed each other away. Same thing, of course, at the more level of the nations or of the species or of the ethnic groups, all the different ways this occurs, communities, groups within communities, and all the ways we identify ourselves. Identity is a real big part of this. And so during this reckoning, judgment, exposure period, there's the idea that it's a softness, a rain of light that is lifting up everything that is not true and bringing it up. It's like the grime, right? The grime is coming up. But the purpose is purification. The purpose is so that we can walk together into a whole new way of seeing ourselves, a whole new way of being ourselves, a whole new way of freeing ourselves from all that has bound us and all that has limited us. So back to the imagery, the event horizon kind of thing. So I have always seen like this, I think I mentioned it in the star tetrahedron part, this purpling kind of sky that inverts on itself. And I think this is there's an image, I think, from the last 2 chapters of Revelation that's very similar. But in my way of seeing it, so there's this like darkening, dark skies, purple skies, and it kind of folds in and on of itself. And then from that, there's created this field of grace, like almost like that, ethereal rainbow light kind of imagery that comes out of nowhere. Although I do see some lightning and thunder before that. But in any case, there's a field of grace, a field of light, this snow energy, just beautiful. And when that transformation is happening from the purpling sky to this other kind of beautiful existence, that is very reminiscent to me of what I perceive to be like more the Lemurian kind of energy. But when that transformation is happening, there's a line, a thin line that is created. It's like a borderline between the two. And that is the event horizon. And that line becomes the circle from which the new is birthed, from which the new heaven and the new earth emerge. And a second light comes. I don't really totally understand what this means, but these lights then join, and thus the star tetrahedron and the wheel within the wheel resides within that. So there's a lot of other imagery that it's just beyond my ability to describe it, but I hope that that's all somehow helpful. So take what resonates, leave what doesn't. If you want to say this whole video is cuckoo crazy, click off. However, I am going to now shift and talk a little bit about the transfiguration of humanity, the reconfiguration individually and at the societal level and at the global level as well, that will need to occur should we successfully make this voyage to the transfiguration and transformation. Ooh, I just realized it's July 10th. It's 10:10 a.m. Cool. That feels significant. Also, some numbers have been coming through, and this 1010 also was it 10,000, 10 million. Yeah, there's some other in my notebook, but back to transfiguration. So it's actually occurring within each one of us, within, and then at the body, soul level, and then in relationship, and then in community or groups. And I think that community, we're going to redefine what that means. And then at the societal, then larger levels, it kind of ripples out. It begins, though, within our hearts. There was always this idea I was clear on anyway, that the Third World War was within the hearts of men. I think I have a poem about that. If you go to my poems, you can search and read that poem. It was from a long time ago. But the transfiguration, the reconfiguration happens first within each one of us. And then we are somehow, and this is the galactic message here, we are somehow being linked up like a constellation, like the stars lit up, as that is occurring, as we're each one allowing it. And we will either come together in physical groups, or we will begin to telepathically communicate in these configurations that are ever shifting, almost like the constellations move in the sky. That's kind of how I'm shown it. But this linking up process is super critical. It's the actual thing, the degree to which we can do that successfully, do our own process, and then do this linking up, is the degree to which we will move with greater speed into a new Eden, a second birth, an opportunity to elevate ourselves, our lives, our capacity for joy and wonder and harmony and peace and love, all the things we all want. And then eventually the elevation of humanity and the liberation of humanity. So as each one of us becomes more aware of the fullness of our experience and what we are actually here to receive and then share, when we really know that we are deserving of stepping into that new heaven, that new earth, this new way of being, this new way of experiencing our lives, as that happens, that's the point at which, where these infinity fields begin to meet, where we begin to link up. And, as we're mastering our true self and returning to the wholeness and the fullness of who we are and allowing ourselves to express from that place, again, there's this linking up. And as the purification is offered from above, beyond, within, all directions, and as that light filters down, if we are able to link up, receive, then there is a natural emergence of a new reality that is, it's really the shift to living from the false matrix and all the conditioning and all the rules of society to the shift to a matrix of soul, where we are fully residing in our sacred temples, fully operating from a place of soul sovereignty, and bringing that fully to expression without fear, and allowing everything else to fall away. It's not going to be a painless process, but from what I am shown, there's no way that we wouldn't want it. And so ultimately, the transfiguration of humanity begins with the reconfiguration of our own human template and the systems with which we connect ourselves to. This is not to say that we will not want external systems. I think we will, and I think we need to reinvent them. That's what I believe many of us are here for, to usher in the new, to create the new, I'm not sure build is the right word, but to co-create a new society and enter into a new era that is rich in love. So again, this reconfiguration, transfiguration process, it's really a cleansing, a purification. And, when we so right now, I'll speak for myself, and I think many of us can relate to this, when we try to avoid the things in our lives that we don't like to look at, like whether it's, I'm afraid to move forward one day, or whether it's I'm really angry at these people over here, they're nonsense, they're messing it all up for us, or whether, whatever the thing you tell yourself, or if I didn't have to deal with people, or if I didn't have to deal with money, or, why do we always have to work, and, all the things, right, that we just want to, but when we try to avoid those, we remain stuck in avoidance, a void dance. We're in the void. We are not in the fields of infinity. We're here in that. And so that the beauty of it, though, is that that's the place, that's the opportunity. That's our next opportunity window right then, right now, in OW, next opportunity window. It's now. And from that place, we're right there. We can connect to those fields of infinity, fields of grace, the infinite expansion, radiant expansion from within the moment of now. And what's actually going on is that, like, we all have the capacity to choose in every moment. Now, again, choose this day, choose this moment. And those choices determine over, the arc of the choices determine, will we allow ourselves to undergo this purification? Will we become transfigured? Will we allow for a reconfiguration of our lives? This doesn't have to happen like all at once. We don't have to destroy everything that has been. It's an openness. It's a willingness to be present, really, to ourselves and to each other. And it's the allowing that's going to be like the rocket fuel that is going to propel us into faith, hope, and love, healing, growth, passion, beauty, into a place where we can co-create new dynamic and sustainable systems, knowing that we are a dynamic and sustainable system fueled from within. And those energies, when harnessed from within, when purified and then harnessed from within, after we've let go of all the attachments to the false structures, that literally is the force of creation. That and that is love. And that is the foundation of all that is true, of all life, of everything that is organic, that everything that is natural is made of that. And that relates back to this the snow-looking grace that's showering down, and also in all directions from that, the star tetrahedron. By the way, that star tetrahedron too, I should have mentioned this earlier, all the images actually, the wheels in the wheel, the star tetrahedron, and the sacred square. I may have reversed the order, but all of those are also like two layer, at least, well, there's probably multi-dimensional layers to it, but at least look at it in terms of that's actually also individual. It's within you. And then it's the collective of humanity. So all of this is what I was referring to years ago. I made like a bunch of videos. One was called Rocking in the Cradle of the New Civilization. One was called Rocky Road to Redemption. All of those, I see now how all of those were related to exactly what I'm being shown exactly now. This journey that we are in right now. Now, it also pertained to, as we were leading up to this place. And what's interesting is, like, when I look back at some of the messages that have come through, and particularly the galactic ones, which I didn't always share, but I can see, like, wow, so that had this surface meaning then, but actually it wasn't just that surface meaning. It was so rich. It was so deep and so wide and vast. I couldn't even fathom it. So also in my book, Cultivating Essence, when I talk about a new agrarian society, it begins within the individual. That's what that book is about. How do we cultivate from our core, so that, and those seeds of essence, those seeds for life that we come bearing, how can we cultivate that and nourish our lives and weed out what does not belong there, so that we can water the world with the fullest expression of who we are? That's what those 90 seeds for life are all about. And you can get my book Cultivating Essence, or look for the 90 Days to Life journey to know more about that. But this new agrarian society is the outcome when we do this. And this is like it's now, and it's really unfolding, and I see such beautiful things ahead for us. And we must fix our eyes on that, but remain grounded again in the whole of who we are, in our soul's truth and radiance. Allow ourselves to be that star tetrahedron held within the cube or the sacred cube, the sacred squares and the wheel and the wheel, allow ourselves to be fully informed, to be in formation, and to undergo this reconfiguration for the transfiguration of our world. So it's really a message of hope. And this time of burning off the impurities is necessary. As we're burning it off, like we're releasing everything that's not needed, that's not useful for this, what we want to create. And so our focus is on the where we're going, but it's also on allowing right now in this moment the release. One other thing, back to the star tetrahedron, that just came to my mind. When I've always seen this vision, even the one I saw as a child, there were the two coming together, right, to form the star tetrahedron, and they're rotating around. And then that was held in especially in my early vision, inside a 12-sided shape, which was, I later learned, called a dodecahedron. And that 12-sided shape, guess what? Connects to the 12 diamond dimensions that we have and are bringing in this period right now. And these dimensions will inform aspects of our full experience of wonder in all the years to come. It will allow us to be that star of wonder individually, to bring our stars of wonder to one another. And those stars, remember, can be like that star tetrahedron inside the dodecahedron. And imagine how that fits together. It's a whole structure. It's a whole structure for the matrix of soul. And it's not about what happens in the skies, although things might happen in the skies. It's about what happens within us. And that's where the transformation is. That's where the transfiguration is. It's at that point of the now, your next opportunity window, which is being present to what is, releasing what does not serve right now, allowing yourself to be at that point of convergence and to move into radiant expansion from within by connecting to these fields of grace that are here for us like never before. This meeting of the waters that is infinite in its expression, in its potential for all of our lives.